And now we're going to hear words from our president, as I mentioned, and he's standing here in the middle of our sanctuary, and live control will go and focus in on you at this time. Josh, thank you so much, and we're now good to go. Thank you, Josh.
Shana Tova.
Lashana Tova.
Shana Tova.
I hold in my hands the greatest high holiday appeal president's speech in Adif Israel's long history. This is
Josh,
not meant.
Talk closer to the mic, please. Thanks.
This is not meant as a slight to any of our past presidents. This speech is just that amazing. You see, traditionally, the first term in a president's career during their high holiday appeal, they are dedicated to answering two questions: who they are and why they are standing here. Well, actually back there. I think I'm the first one to stand right here. My who and my why will likely change your life. You will laugh, cry, experience the full range of human emotions. I've actually been writing it for more than a decade, long before I became active here at Adif Israel. In year two, presidents historically talk about the institutions that are Adif Israel. Sometimes it's an update of what's transpired in year one. It's not normally as emotional or riveting, but incredibly valuable for the congregation to hear. In true 2020 I'm shelving this amazing speech until next year. In a year full of disappointments, let's add this one to the list. You'll all have to come back next year and hear it face to face, God willing. While I'm sure that you are all devastated you won't hear my who and why this year, I feel that in this crazy year where we are not together in person, it's more important to talk about all of us and what Adif Israel is doing for you rather than hear my story. Many, many, many years ago, 5 to be exact, Adif started on a journey of self-exploration. After surveys, focus groups, and more meetings than you can count, Imagine Adif was born. We created 4 pillars that would shape the future of our congregation. As we take the time on Yom Kippur to examine our lives, who we are, and what we are doing, it's a great opportunity to also look at where we are as an organization in our imagined journey. For those of you who have not committed them to memory yet, here they are. Pillar number 1, be the kind of synagogue where every congregant works together to make everyone feel unconditionally welcomed, accepted, and at home. Pillar number 2, nurture our community through innovative and dynamic approaches to Jewish life inside and outside the walls of the synagogue. Pillar 3, consistently step forward and speak out to build a just and equitable community for all, rooted in Jewish values and teachings. Pillar 4, cultivate a path to well-being, enabling our congregants to grow spiritually, religiously, and intellectually. So how are we doing? What are we doing? What's the plan? Pillar 1, be warm and welcoming. The first one that we started working on, the one that we've made the most progress on. So far, we changed the new member experience with a new application, direction on staff interaction, welcome baskets, and ways to make sure that new members feel accepted at home. We've also changed lots about the current member experience, including redefining what membership looks like to be more inclusive of all families. Everyone is welcome here. Offering unique Shabbat experiences, now with Zoom and Facebook Live, more to come when we reopen. Training ushers and greeters to be more sensitive and adaptable to all members and guests. A new look for the Kol Kehila, our monthly newsletter, which I'm sure you all read cover to cover. A new coffee station in our lobby. Check it out when we reopen. Shabbat at home, where congregants, new and old, can get to know one another better. A rabbi, Rabbi Smolkin, calling each single family to make sure that you all feel welcome and that you know that he cares about you. Rebecca Skirball Miller has moved religious school online to allow access to all. The school is filled with wonderful teachers and fantastic students. Classes started this morning, but it's never too late to join, and lots more in the works. Pillar 2, nurture our community through innovation and dynamic approaches to Jewish life. I call this pillar Meg. If you hadn't heard, we recently hired Meg Wells to be our Director of Engagement and Congregational Programming. This is the pillar in which she lives, eats, and breathes. Expect lots of new initiatives focusing around all demographics, including intergenerational, singles, empty nesters, remote on-location and in-person events, and on lots of new subjects, one of which is exciting new Israel programming. Ride into Rosh Hashanah was her first program. Look for our Drive into Sukkot concert coming soon, and something not involving cars soon after. Pillar 3, social justice. Sandy Kaltman is leading the charge on this pillar. Today's initiative is Mitzvot 100-100. Our goal is to have 100% of our congregation registered to vote, 100% of our congregation voting in this upcoming election. Let me be clear. This is not political. It's not about who you vote for. It's just that you vote. We as Jews, a group that has been historically relegated to second-class citizen status, must take full advantage of having our voices heard. Sandy and her committee will move on after the election to another project or two that we as Jews are compelled to support. Pillar 4, well-being. This pillar is the only one that has benefited from COVID. Since March, the number of virtual programs designed to help us grow spiritually, religiously, and intellectually has exploded. Rabbi Ben, already a teaching machine, has upped his game with many new classes and is bringing back Essentials of Judaism starting next month. This class is a great introduction to Judaism, the conservative movement, and our shul. Plus, we have wonderful new Hebrew classes starting next month. Wake Up with the Rabbis on Facebook has received rave reviews. If you haven't watched, it's a short teaching to inspire and prime our day. Online services allow access for all to join Minyan and Shabbat morning services. Our attendance is way up. Nights when we struggled to get a Minyan in person have seen 20 to 30 people online. Brotherhood series on mental health, which I have dubbed Free Therapy for Brotherhood's Past Presidents, is amazing. This series, which I hope will continue for a long time, helps legitimize all that many of us are feeling right now. Alone, scared for our health, our loved ones' health, our finances, and/or being stressed out. Look for more coming soon with Sisterhood joining the party. In addition to our 4 pillars, I created 9 priorities for the board to work on during my term. I wrote about them in the Kol Kehila back in August, so I'm confident that you can all recite them. Likely you have them posted on your fridge. Unlike the Amida, I will spare you the full repetition, but there are some not specifically called out in the 4 pillars, and I want to address them now. Priority number 1, how do we safely reopen the shul? Dealing with a worldwide pandemic was not on my initial agenda when I started my journey to become president. Nothing in my past experience prepared me for this. Thankfully, we have resources here at Adath Israel that many don't. Our virus response committee, consisting of medical professionals, industry leaders, our own facility manager, Tim Patton, Rabbi Smolkin, Chief Operating Officer, Chris Hannon, and chaired by our immediate past president, have done an unbelievable job navigating these murky waters. Special shout out to Dr. Hamilton Lempert, who crafted the living document that will be shared with all of you shortly and provides the guide rails for our reopening. Our first 2 in-person services will be Friday nights in October. Registration will be required, seating will be limited. More details to come, and more services to come. and one day all of us together again. My priority number 5, how do we ensure that we are creating tomorrow's leaders? Coupled with my priority number 7, how do we create lasting structures and repeatable procedures? There's a ton of work being done behind the scenes right now. Our board is undergoing training from the USCJ, the United Synagogue of Conservative Judaism, to both change the way our shul is governed and create a true leadership development structure. Under Chris Hannon's leadership, we continue on our journey to professionalize the organization. As many of you know, Chris has spent a lot of time creating new processes to ensure that our operations are world-class. Which brings us to my priority number 2, and the stated purpose of my being here today. How do we ensure the long-term financial health of Aleph Israel? This is a longer conversation than we can have today, but here are the highlights. Over the last 2 years, I served as treasurer with one mission: to be able to stand here and tell you that we are great financial stewards of your donations. This is critical, as the largest percentage of revenue comes from dues. What may surprise you is that dues only represent 43% of our budget this year. This is down from 5 years ago when dues represented over 70% of our budget. And in gross dollars, this is even more striking. So why is this happening? A couple of factors are at play, some good, some bad. First, the bad. COVID has impacted us tremendously. We expect to collect $200,000 less this year in dues than last, and we may not hit our target. This is the continuation and acceleration of a downward trend going back a decade. We have also lost a number of very generous congregants over the last couple of years. One moved, sadly the rest passed away. I also believe that our current dues structure isn't ideal. In some ways, it discourages folks from giving more. It is a priority of mine to effect change to it during my term. We have eliminated every expense dollar that we can find that doesn't directly support our mission or we can no longer afford. We've shrunk our budget by 20% this year alone. That's on top of a 10% reduction last year. Sadly, that meant having to cut many positions, both full and part-time, both folks relatively new to our organization and folks that have been here longer than me. We are mailing less often. We are aggressively shopping every expense. We no longer do things just because we have already and always done them. There are no sacred cows. Every dollar is scrutinized in ways we've never done before. Now for the good news. We are relying on alternate sources of funding more than ever. We have secured generous grants from Jewish Foundation, Jewish Federation, Safe Cincinnati, the Department of Homeland Security, among others. We have enjoyed success in our annual fundraiser, the barbecue. We have rented out our facility to Ollie and others to generate income. Our endowment has grown and continues to grow through generous donors and our Create Your Jewish Legacy program, or CYJL as we call it. CYJL is a wonderful program where you direct your estate to leave a legacy gift to Aleph Israel and other local Jewish organizations. If you aren't familiar with CYJL, let's talk. We have made capital improvements to reduce monthly costs. Finally, we have come to rely more on the High Holiday Appeal than ever before. The High Holiday Appeal is special for a couple of reasons. First, it's one of the only times we ask congregants to vote with their dollars. Some view it as a referendum of the performance of the shul over the last year. Some on this very speech. Hopefully you like both. Second, it's one of the most variable components in our budget. A successful campaign can make a year. A disastrous one can be, well, disastrous. Third, I recognize that it can be uncomfortable as a congregant to be asked, especially in a year when every organization is asking for more. Unique to this year is being remote. In past years, a few folks, myself included one year, snuck in the back to avoid Kathy passing out pledge cards. Others conveniently exited the sanctuary when the appeal began. This year, you can press mute. You can leave the room and no one would notice. Heck, you could even take a nap. Maybe you're doing all three right now. This is why we passed out pledge forms during the ride into Rosh Hashanah, why there is a Donate Now button on adithlive.com and on our website, why we've sent emails and basically been a pest. With your generous contribution or pledge today, we can continue our work on our 4 pillars. We can continue to bring you amazing programs, both virtually and in person. We can continue to try new initiatives and keep the beloved, successful old programs going. We can continue and elevate our mission. Every year when we read about the building of the tabernacle in Exodus chapter 36, we see every synagogue's dream in verse 5. And they said to Moses, "The people are bringing more than is needed for the tasks entailed in the work that Adonai has commanded to be done." In verse 7, Moses then commands them to stop giving, for their efforts have been more than enough for all the tasks to be done. Which brings me to my favorite Brady Bunch quote, because who doesn't follow up Tanakh with the Brady Bunch? When it's time to change, you've got to rearrange who you are and what you're going to be. In 2020, everything has changed. We are again at a turning point in the 173-year history of our shul. We are poised to grow, to evolve into something more special than ever before. We are more responsive to our congregants' needs, creating more opportunities to be involved with more diverse programming in a time when we are all yearning for connection. Adith Israel is here for you now more than ever. We have 2 rock star full-time rabbis, an amazing school, a choir that has never sounded better, and an organization aligned to support our mission. So who are you? And what are you going to be? Are you going to be like our ancestors in the Bible? Are you going to give so generously that Rabbi, like Moses before him, will command you to stop? Are you going to prioritize your spiritual home and support us? For those of you who have already donated or pledged, thank you. I really appreciate it. I would not, however, turn down a second, third, fourth, or fifth donation. There is no gift too small. I personally have felt weird in years when I didn't have much to give. I assumed that $18 or $36 wouldn't matter. I was wrong. Every dollar counts. There is a Jewish teaching that directs us. We are taught to not give $1 more nor $1 less than we can afford, whatever that amount is. 2 final thoughts. First, for those of you who would like to fund a special initiative or a pet project of yours, or sponsor an existing program or event, please contact me. There are literally hundreds of sponsorships available. Second, it is my wildest hope that this appeal will far outstrip our budget. When that happens, we will take the surplus and start a relief fund. Our congregation, like our community, our country, and the whole world has been affected by COVID-19. We can't immediately fix the world or our country, but we can help those most directly affected here at Adith Israel. This fund will be used to offset dues for those who have had their income decrease this year and to give directly to our congregants in need. The best part of Adith Israel is you. I'm counting on you. Please give what you can so next year I can share my killer speech, my who and why, plus how successful we've been. I genuinely wish you, your family, and all those that you love to be written in the book of life for a year full of health, happiness, prosperity, and all good things. Have a meaningful and easy fast. Shana Tova.